and welcome to the Riyal Deal, coming to you from the Al Arabiya English headquarters. This is your weekly bulletin, bringing you all the latest business news headlines and analysis from Saudi Arabia. Coming up on the program, we take a look at the construction sector in Saudi Arabia as a white paper on the industry sheds light on the immense growth over the last few years and its potential moving forwards, but also the bottlenecks that threaten to slow the pace of development. Plus, the CEO of Cruise Saudi joins us on the program to discuss the cruise industry and plans for Saudi Arabia in the attractive but established field that lies at the intersection of leisure, tourism, and entertainment. Hello and welcome to the program. From homes to factories to megacities, Saudi Arabia is constructing the world's most ambitious giga projects. Well, this is a key part of Vision 2030 and the long-term drive to diversify the economy away from dependence on oil revenue. Well, there are more than $1.5 trillion worth of projects underway in the kingdom: Diriyah Gate, Red Sea Project, and NEOM, to name just a few. And it's hoped that these projects are going to attract investment, generate jobs, and serve as engines for growth in tourism, technology, and entertainment. Well, Versatile International is a project management consultancy firm with a focus on the construction sector, and they've just published a white paper entitled Construction in 2025, Paving the Way to 2030 and Beyond. Well, my colleague here at Al Arabiya English, Jennifer Bell, spoke to Versatile International's founder, chairman and CEO, Marco Fahed. Here's what he had to say.
Well, the recent investment agreement, it's a clear indication that Saudi is no longer a rising player. It's definitely now shaping global flows of capital and technology, making a major milestone in the kingdom's economic globalization. So in terms of what it means for Saudi's construction sector, we can expect further investment into growth sectors such as AI and infrastructure, aligning definitely with Vision 2030. Ultimately, the investment reflects what our research has certainly revealed, and the country is under pressure to deliver faster and at scale. So for the construction sector, the practical implications are quite clear. The investment is expected to accelerate the rollout of digital infrastructure across priority sectors, including construction, amplifying the use of AI-powered building information modelling and data-led oversight tools to enable optimised resource allocation and predictive maintenance. Whilst our research has showed that Saudi's professionals have already been integrating these tools, our research at the same time has also demonstrated that scheduled overruns remain common and labour shortages continue to slow down progress. So this investment will drive definitely the next phase of evolution, embedding advanced systems more widely, upskilling teams to use them effectively, and supporting specialist consultants who bring delivery precision that these mega projects demand. And in short, that doesn't just elevate Saudi's global standing, but deepens the capacity of its construction industry to perform at scale.
Okay, so that was Marco Fahed, the CEO of Versatile International, speaking to my colleague there. Let's bring into the conversation Ali Raza, the strategic advisor to the Saudi Arabia holding company, who joins us once again here on the Riyal Deal. Thanks for joining us for this edition, Ali. Just tell us a little bit about the construction sector and where it fits into the Saudi GDP jigsaw.
Well, $1.5 trillion in construction projects. First of all, we have to say this is arguably the largest active construction market in the world. And at the moment, it represents around 6% of the GDP, as in the current volume. Now, I think it's also important to note that there are let's construction market in two segments: the giga projects, which in essence are entire cities that are being built in a matter of a few short years, the likes of NEOM, Qiddiya, Diriyah. But on the other side of this, we also have a large pile of construction that's taking place for grassroots developments. Roshan is doing an amazing job at creating residential districts. You have the Saudi Downtown Company, SDC, which is responsible for turning 12 regions around the country into thriving metropolitan hubs. So the construction market, in its current form, represents 6% of the GDP. The currently active or planned projects are north of $1.5 trillion, and this is really truly spanning the entire region in every form.
Yeah, I mean, huge infrastructure projects, as we said in the introduction, really key to fueling economic diversification. I mean, all of that feeds in very neatly to the Vision 2030, doesn't it?
Of course, the name of the game has been diversification. The objective has been to build a thriving society, thriving industries, move the economy forward. Construction, of course, is a key pillar of that. As an industry, it's adding to the employment rates. It's bringing foreign capital into the region. It's bringing new opportunity to the region. But I think even more importantly, it's the outcome of this construction is what is particularly exciting. So we have the cities that we just spoke about, such as Neom, Gidi, and such. The construction of these cities is an industry and provides an economic contribution in itself. But once these constructions finalized and complete, the products that we are creating, the spaces that are being created, this is what brings the lasting impact to the nation.
That report we were just talking about there, and we heard from the CEO of Versatile International that commissioned that report, did point to a couple of issues. Why don't we look at them each in turn? One of them was the demand for skilled labor. I mean, are you hearing about workforce gaps being an issue in Saudi Arabia?
Well, Tom, where in the world do you have large-scale construction where you don't have project overruns or sometimes challenges with skilled labor, demand for labor? I won't speak specifically to the numbers on this matter per se or the challenges. What I can attest to is every one of the entities and the relevant stakeholders, the leaders, if you look closely into how they're navigating this climate, they're all taking necessary measures to plan for any kind of skills requirements through a combination of technological implementation, through partnerships, through labor attraction strategies. A number of the enterprise, for example, I mean, the likes of Marden, they have some very interesting partnerships in place with. Recently they took on the F1 sponsorship. They are with Live Golf. So there's an effort towards really not just developing the right environment for the workforce to be in, but finding new ways to communicate with the potential workforces. So all in all, I think securing skilled labor is a natural part of any relevant leadership's responsibility, and the necessary measures are being taken to secure that.
Okay, one of the other issues that the report points to is the rising cost of materials and some supply chain constraints. I mean, are you hearing anything to the effect that these kind of issues are indeed affecting construction timelines and budgets, Ali?
Once again, so these are natural challenges, first of all, and especially with the events of the recent tariff sentiment, with what's happening to supply chains around the globe as a result, which it is settling to some extent. There will be questions around how this is secured. What I can say is Saudi Arabia, in all aspects of industry, has taken the approach of localizing and regionalizing as much content as possible, and across this industry, there's perhaps some bottlenecks, but there is also a very concentrated effort to localize content. So much of the supply chain for many of these projects, there is a full and complete effort to bring in this closer to home. And, we're still in the early days of that, but, that will start to come to fruition. And I believe in the longer term, that will be the saving grace.
And just lastly for this segment, Ali, I mean, one of the buzzwords reading that report, and also when we talk about construction to people in any country really, I mean, sustainability comes up again and again. Do you see Saudi Arabia sort of shifting towards what you might call sustainable construction?
There's certainly examples of it. I know out in Medina there's some developments taking place, and there's a push towards using sustainable forms of construction. And, this is, of course, I mean, on a case-by-case basis, but NEOM has a very comprehensive sustainable strategy. So although it is a very, very ambitious project that is being completely rethought, there's a very extensive sustainable development strategy in place. So, yes, there's an interest and an appetite for sustainability overall. Saudi Arabia has a net zero target. In a few decades' time, Saudi Arabia intends to be 50% running on renewables by 2030. So the overall attitude is very much in favor of sustainable construction, but sustainability across the globe.
All right, thank you very much indeed for that, Ali Raza. We will be back with you a little later in the programme.
Let's get a quick check for you now of some of the other top stories we're following for you this week. And Saudi Arabia's budget carrier Flynas has attracted about $109 billion in orders for its IPO. That's even as it priced its share sale at the top of the marketed range at $21.3 for its $1.1 billion IPO. The institutional tranche was nearly 100 times oversubscribed on strong local and international demand, underscoring strong investor appetite for listings in the Gulf. Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund has announced the opening of a subsidiary office in Paris. The French President Emmanuel Macron and the PIF Governor Yasser Al-Rumayyan were present at the Paris ceremony. Well, the Wealth Fund has invested $84.7 billion across Europe, of which $8.6 billion was in France. Well, the newest office will join its New York, London, Hong Kong and Beijing outposts. Staying with the Saudi Wealth Fund, its governor is saying it will not invest in Switzerland's financial markets. Speaking at an FII event in Tirana, here's what the PIF governor, Yasser Al-Rumayyan, had to say.
And I will give you one bad incident that happened to us in our investment in Credit Suisse. We owned about 5% of that. Overnight, the Swiss regulator changed the law. 150 years of rule of law was changed overnight. To us, we're not going to invest in the financial markets in Switzerland because...
As a chairman of a Swiss bank, as of 10 days ago, that concerns me.
No, I mean, seriously, if you change something overnight...
I agree with you.
...and you wipe out all of your investors...
I agree.
This is a big red flag.
Well, the comments come as investors reel from the collapse of Credit Suisse. The PIF-backed Saudi National Bank had around a 10% stake. Well, following the bank's demise in March 2023, it was bought out by its rival UBS for $3.3 billion without shareholder approval, but backed by Swiss regulators. Saudi Arabia's economy minister says the kingdom is ready for any oil price scenario. Speaking at a forum in Doha, the minister Faisal Ali Ibrahim saying that the Gulf country has long-term fiscal planning and medium-term frameworks to adjust to a possible fluctuation in prices. Well, the comments come even as non-oil activities reach record levels, accounting for 54.8% of Saudi Arabia's GDP in 2024. And finally, Saudi Arabia will host for the first time ever Tourise. That is a global platform to drive tourism and define the next 50 years of the industry. The event will debut in Riyadh in November later this year and focus on 4 key areas: bridging public and private sectors, driving tourism investment through MOUs, supporting sustainable growth, and creating a steady government structure. While tourism is a big focus for the kingdom's Vision 2030 goals. The country welcomed around 30 million international tourists in 2024, with the sector contributing 5% to the GDP.
Now, changing gears, we've talked quite a lot on this programme about the importance of tourism to Vision 2030. The airlines, the infrastructure, the hotels, the resorts that are all putting the kingdom firmly on the map. Well, one of the key players in this drive is Cruise Saudi. That is a public investment portfolio company which has a mission to build a thriving cruise ecosystem from the ground upwards. That means not just launching Saudi Arabia's first ever cruise line, but also developing port infrastructure, creating destinations as well, and carving out a whole new industry for the country. Well, launched in 2021, Cruise Saudi aims to position the kingdom as a premier global cruise destination, welcoming 1.3 million cruise passengers to Saudi Arabia by the year 2035. Well, Lars Clasen is the CEO of Cruise Saudi. He joins us now. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Cruise Saudi is talking about building a thriving cruise ecosystem. What does that actually involve?
Well, Cruise Saudi's mission is to establish Saudi as a leading international cruise destination. And we do that by operating two distinct different business units. One is what we call destination experience, and the other one is cruise and maritime experiences. And since the launch of Cruise Saudi in 2021, we have had numerous very successful seasons, and we received 26 cruise ships from 16 cruise lines with 500,000 passengers from over 120 different nationalities. So and this is what we're up to further develop in order to be part of Vision 2030 and achieving the goals of 150 million passengers by 2030.
Okay, so you've got a huge challenge ahead of you. As you say, you've got two distinct pillars. Let's talk about infrastructure, first of all. Have you had to start from scratch when it comes to building the infrastructure? I mean, the ports, the facilities and so on that's required for these cruise liners?
Well, not always. For instance, in Jeddah, we currently operate in the commercial port and have a terminal there. And then the port infrastructure, so the marine side infrastructure, is done by Mawani. And we develop and operate the terminals. This is a collaboration between Mawani and ourselves. Currently, we have 4 gateways operational, one in Jeddah, Islamic Port, one in Yanbu, one in Dammam, and then also a private island exclusive beach location for cruise passengers, Sabah Beach in the southern Red Sea.
I wanted to ask you about that. Sabah Island that you just mentioned there. I mean, it's described as being the Red Sea's first private cruise island. I just want to know a bit more about that island. What happens there? What sort of feedback are you getting?
The island is a wonderful, beautiful island in the southern Red Sea with pristine beaches and wonderful waters. It's mainly beach activities exclusive to cruise passengers. We have capacity for 3,000 passengers with facilities, for instance, include 2,000 sunbeds. There are F&B venues on the island, VVIP beachfront villas, and snorkeling, excursion, kayaking. So a lot of water sport activities exclusive to cruise guests.
And what are people saying about it? Because it opened in December, I believe, didn't it?
We did a soft launch in December with the first cruise of Arroya. And so it's open for all cruise lines, not just Arroya, but currently Arroya is the only ship calling there. And the guests are just wonderful. It's the most popular destination of all the Arroya itineraries.
Okay, let's talk a bit more about Arroya, because that is, of course, the cruise line company that's now up and running, launched in December as well. Tell us a bit about the customer experience. What makes it stand out?
Arroya is a truly and remarkably Arabian cruise line, and it's targeted at the Arabian guest. So the offerings on board are tailor-made for our Arabian guest. the food offerings, the entertainment, the pool hours for the ladies. So it's all catered to the Arabian taste, and that is what really stands out. All the other cruise offerings out there from the international cruise lines, they are mainly targeted at European or North American guests, and this one is targeted at the Arabian guest from the Arabian Peninsula, not just the Saudi, but they also. Everyone is welcome, of course, but from all the offerings, it is targeted at the Arabian guest.
Okay, so what you're saying is everyone is welcome on one of these cruises. So if a European or an American person, for example, wants to go on a cruise with Arroyo, they'd be able to do so. It would be a different experience, however, from perhaps a carnival cruise.
Yeah, sure. I mean, as I said, we have a number of restaurants, and some of them are purely tailored to the Arabian market, but then we also offer international cuisine, and the entertainment is more tailored to the Arabian taste, and the activities on board. We have a water park for the kids. We have the largest kids area. We have a huge shopping mall. So all this is more focused to the taste of the Arabian guest. But again, it's an international product, it's a modern product, and everyone is welcome and will feel most comfortable on board.
Okay, so I mean, Cruise Saudi is obviously a big part of Vision 2030 and what that wants to achieve. Just tell us where the company fits in to that jigsaw.
Well, we are developing cruise, the whole cruise industry, the ecosystem, by developing ports, operating the terminals, welcoming cruise lines and their guests from international cruise lines, as well, obviously, as Arroyo. We're curating and organizing shore excursions. We don't operate them ourselves, but and by doing so, in conjunction with cooperation with the destination management companies, we create employment in the ports, and so it is not just the employment which we create within Cruise Saudi ourselves, but we're creating the whole industry, the ecosystem, and by that a lot of the jobs. And then also on the cruise line side, Arroyo is a huge modern cruise ship. We have 1,500 crew. We have a large number of employees within Cruise Saudi, and we're developing the tourism. And tourism is a major part of Vision 2030, and we are part of it.
Okay, you make some really interesting points just there. I mean, you talk about infrastructure, that's one point. Another thing you talked about is job creation. Let's talk about infrastructure for just a moment longer, then we'll talk about job creation. There's a new port, isn't there, at Al Wajah, which is being built now, I gather. I just want to know what stage the construction's at and sort of what it looks like there. I mean, is it just for cruise traffic, or would there be some freight and cargo going through that port as well?
No. We are purely focused on cruise traffic. So when we, from the 4 destinations which we have in operation right now, go on and look into the future, we plan to have 10 gateways operational by 2030, and 2 of them are in the master planning stage. So there is a dedicated cruise hub in Jeddah, outside of the commercial port. It's always much nicer for the guests to be in a dedicated cruise port. And then in Al Wajh, it will also be a dedicated cruise terminal as a gateway to Al Ula. For instance, the Prince Mohammed bin Salman Royal Reserve and Wadi Disa, and all the wonderful things cruise guests can experience in that region. So it's a gateway mainly to Al Ula, which is strong and very, very high demand from other cruise companies.
Okay, I mean, I did say I was going to ask you a bit more about job creation, which you picked up on in your earlier answer. I mean, do you think, for example, La Roya and other elements of this cruise ecosystem you've been talking about are going to involve local communities? And do you see that in turn translating into job creation? And what sort of numbers of jobs do you see being created?
So we plan to have in the ecosystem created 50,000 jobs by 2030. All in all, on the ships, but also ashore, for destination management companies and pre and post programs which we organize for the cruise guests. That is our goal, to have influence 50,000 jobs, not within Cruise Saudi, but in the whole ecosystem created by 2030.
Okay, so exciting job creation opportunities and 1.3 million cruise passengers by 2035. I mean, this is going to have a big economic impact, isn't it?
Yes, it does, and that is what leads to what I said, those 50,000 jobs in the whole ecosystem.
Okay, and in terms of moving forwards, any plans to link other cities on this sort of cruise ecosystem map? And the second part of my question is, would you consider doing partnerships with other cruise operators around the world? Well,
first of all, right now we're focusing on developing Saudi as a destination, and we have further things in our roadmap. Right now we're focusing on Al Waj and Jeddah Cruise Hub, but we also have another island destination, a private beach destination in development, more focused also on ecotourism. Then we have several more things in the pipeline. For that, we are definitely open to create that in conjunction with in partnerships, definitely. On the cruise line side, we are building up Arroya, and we also have a joint venture with Aman. Aman is an ultra-luxury hotel group, and we have one ship under construction, and the ship for that ultra-luxury segment will be delivered in first half of 2027.
Okay, so we've got some exciting partnerships there with established players in the industry. What about national level partnerships like Red Sea Project, Salula, NEOM? I mean, any sort of scope for partnerships at that level?
About partnerships, whenever they do their projects and have touch point to cruise ports, we will be involved, and we are involved, and we are in discussion with them. And it's a very important point for us to do that in partnership with other companies, be it from PRF or be it other projects in the kingdom.
And Mr. Clasen, obviously the cruise industry was severely affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. It seems to have bounced back, doesn't it? I mean, where do you see the industry heading to from here?
Well, the cruise market recovered from the effects of the pandemic very quickly and is thriving. It's a thriving industry, and it's expected to grow by 10% annually for the foreseeable future. And we want to be part of that, and we believe we can contribute to that. And there are 40 million cruise passengers annually worldwide, which is a huge part of worldwide tourism. And the cruise guests are getting younger and younger and looking for new destinations. And we would like to position Saudi as one of the most sought after destinations for cruise lines, for new as a new destination where all cruise lines would like to come to.
Okay, it's really interesting you say that the cruise line passengers are getting younger and younger. So For anyone out there who thinks cruises are for retirees and for, I don't know, their grandparents' generation, what do you have to say to them?
Well, look at Arroyo. I mean, Arroyo is a family product, and on Arroyo we have a wonderful, huge kids area. It's probably one of the largest kids area on any cruise ship, and then it's a multi-generational product, and many cruises are. The time where cruises were really for the older generation are long past.
Okay, we're going to leave it there. We're out of time. Thank you very much indeed, Lars Clasen, the CEO of Cruise Saudi. Thank you very much indeed for your time. Well, let's bring back into the conversation Ali Raza, strategic advisor to the Saudi Arabia holding company, who is listening in there with us. Ali, I don't know what stood out for you in that conversation, but one thing that stood out for me was, this idea of Saudi Arabia becoming this global cruise hub. And that ties in very neatly to a lot of the conversations we've had about how tourism is central to Vision 2030. I mean, it's really going to raise the kingdom's global tourism profile, isn't it?
Most definitely. The kingdom planned to attract 100 million tourists by 2030 and actually hit that target last year. And then the target was raised to 150 million. The Minister of Tourism made a comment recently that we hope the revenue or contribution from tourism will be equal to that of oil by 2030. In order to achieve that kind of outcome, there's a lot of things that need to come together, but we already have a number of very interesting projects underway, the likes of NEOM, Qiddiya, Red Sea, many of which we've spoken about in the past and we know very well. And Saudi Arabia also has a very strategically placed location in the world, geographical location, and it's very suited to a cruise product. So this, amongst many other things, I think just adds to the potential of the tourism industry in Saudi Arabia, and I think it'll be a very exciting outcome when it comes to fruition.
Yeah, so I mean, tourism already contributing somewhere in the region of 12% to the kingdom's GDP. I mean, do you see a lot of spin-off benefits from something like Cruise Saudi? I mean, obviously bringing tourists in large numbers and into different communities, perhaps from the other tourist hotspots.
Yeah, of course, Tom. What better way to promote the land than to offer people to come and enjoy it first, right? If you go visit your friends in a neighborhood and you like the neighborhood, there's a good chance that perhaps somewhere down the line you'll decide to stay in the neighborhood. So there's many ongoing benefits, of course. Every aspect of the strategy that's underway under the Vision 2030 initiative is very, very interconnected. We've spoken about this many times before. There's enormous development happening across many industries, sectors. There are new residential areas being developed. There's commercial propositions. I mean, we can talk about everything that's happening in the kingdom all day long, right? But what better way to introduce people to that than to invite them to come and enjoy the land and enjoy all the great things the land has to offer? And hopefully, that will then also cycle through to other economic objectives and allow the nation to flourish in an accelerated way.
Yeah, and another benefit of this initiative, and we heard it there from Mr. Clasen, was the jobs creation dimension of all of this. And creating jobs in non-oil sectors, again, very much part of the goals of Vision 2030.
Of course. Once again, I mean, I'll repeat, every aspect of the Vision 2030 strategy is very, very interconnected. And, Saudi Arabia has a very young population, 65% under the age of 35. People need to live, work, prosper, right? And tourism is, one other industry or sector on top of the many that are being developed at such rapid pace. But I think it's a real accelerant. It's a multiplier to everything else that's going on. And from an economic perspective, yes, of course, tourism is, it creates a large influx of jobs. It creates new opportunities. It creates opportunities for new businesses, SME. The SMEs then in turn employ further droves of people. So all in all, it has a very large multiplier effect on the economy if it's well executed.
And just listening to what Mr. Clasen said again, I mean, it sounds like they're building a lot of the infrastructure associated with the cruise industry from scratch. But the good news is that, I mean, that sort of infrastructure will be there very much for the long term, won't it?
Of course, if we've learned one thing in the recent years, especially, is that Saudi Arabia is not afraid to build from scratch, to create, to invent, to have a vision, to have ambition, and to venture into new worlds. And this is yet another example of a space which has been, in my opinion, very strategically identified. I believe it makes a lot of sense that the relevant efforts are being invested into bringing it to life.
And just lastly, I mean, we were hearing there about the coastal areas like Jeddah, the Red Sea coast, that get something of a localized boost from the tourists coming into those areas. But from a tourist point of view and a visitor's point of view, I mean, a luxury cruise and some unique Saudi destinations, I mean, that's a whole new offering on the sort of in the catalogue of cruise sort of propositions out there, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. Look, I spent a large part of my life out in Australia, Western Australia to be particular, and there's a beautiful part of Perth, Western Australia called Fremantle, which is essentially a port city. And observing and witnessing this through my lifetime, there are a lot of cruise ships that come through the place, and when the cruise ships land, each and every time you see a bustling crowd. You see the hospitality venues completely filled. You see people walking into the small local businesses. I mean, it's once again, it has a really, really huge multiplier effect. And on top of that, you're introducing people to everything that the land has to offer, which in some cases will return tenfold down the line.
All right, we're going to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed for your contribution today. Ali Raza, Strategic Advisor to the Saudi Arabia Holding Company. Thank you very much indeed to you.
Thank you.
And that is all we have time for today's edition of The Riyal Deal here on Al Arabiya English. Thank you very much indeed for watching. See you again next week.